My name is Gene Taylor. I'm the Director of Athletics at North Dakota State University, and I'm the Chair of the President's Council on Alcohol and Other Drugs. It was established in October of 2007 by President Joseph Chapman, as he's wanted to raise the awareness of our alcohol issues on campus. Well, we're just very concerned with our underage consumption of alcohol on campus and our overconsumption of alcohol on campus. It is a problem. We're probably one of the highest ranked campuses in the country with this issue, but it's also an issue within our state, and it's something we really need to address and reduce those percentages down to more of a national average. Most of our athletes, when they do get in trouble, revolve around some sort of alcohol-related incident or the use of alcohol in some fashion. When President Chapman asked me to be the chair of this council, I thought it was important to raise the level of visibility of the council because the athletic director and his role is very high. And I thought it would be important if we're going to move this issue forward, somebody that needed to be somewhat visible in that role should play that position, which is what I wanted to do. I think athletes are risk takers, which is typically good athletes are risk takers, and they feel as though that they always live on edge, and in some fashion they live on edge in everything they do. And when athletes get in trouble, they're taking risk. They're taking risk as an athlete in terms of their preparation, in terms of what they do on the field, but they also have a tendency to take risk off the field. And even though there is definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? Even though there is definitely consequences for getting in trouble, many of them will still take that risk thinking they're not going to get in trouble to push the envelope on both sides of their careers. In terms of our 350 student athletes that we have on campus, I would say probably a third of those are ones we have major concerns with. That doesn't mean that 100 are getting in trouble. It just means 100 of them typically are ones we have to look out for. But in the course of a year, we may only have 25 alcohol-related incidences that we're dealing with, but some of those can be very high profile, which causes the concern to be even greater in the public eye. First of all, many of them are consuming, of those 100 are consuming probably underage, which is the first and foremost, which is against the law. Their decisions that they make off-field get them into trouble, whether it's minor consumption or DUIs. Those are, I would say, of all of our issues, those are the two largest. And of the largest, it's minor in consumption. We have maybe a handful of DUI-related incidents, and then we have very few. I have not had an assault or anything very serious in recent years. So, but we just are concerned that these young people are making decisions off the field that could impact their being able to keep their scholarship, finishing their education, being able to compete at the level that they need to compete to be successful. And when alcohol plays a role in that, it takes away from those opportunities. Statistically, you'd think it'd be just the men on the teams, but we're beginning to see more higher incidences of women involved with alcohol-related incidents. But it's still clearly men probably have more incidents than the women, but we're seeing an increase in that on the women's side. Well, I certainly think in North Dakota, our athletes that come on campus have been probably aware of and exposed to alcohol in the smaller communities in particular. I would say that our athletes are coming to campus already having consumed their first alcoholic drink or certainly aware of it. Athletics and alcohol seem to match one another. From the collegiate level, there's tailgating, there's pregame activities that involve alcohol. At the high school level, I'm not sure what level they're getting exposed to alcohol, but in our discussions with our student athletes, they are having that exposure at the high school level, in some cases even younger. But there's always that tendency for alcohol and athletics to go together for whatever reason, right, wrong, or indifferent, and they are coming to our campus exposed to alcohol at an early age. Our coaches talk to our athletes all the time about alcohol use. Certainly because of the issues that go along with that off campus in terms of getting in trouble, in terms of missing games, missing opportunities to participate, and ultimately possibly losing their scholarship if they get in serious enough trouble. But from a physical side, there's a huge disadvantage of drinking and being able to prepare for practice or being able to prepare for games. So there is a negative physical consequence with consuming alcohol, whether it be a drink on Saturday night or 5 drinks, that could have an effect on Monday's practice. Certainly if they were to consume on Thursday or Friday, they'd have a really negative impact on Saturday. So they talk about it a great deal. They inform the athletes of their rules and regulations that they have pertaining to off-field incidences, so it's talked about quite frequently with our coaches. Some of the other things we do with our student athletes in terms of alcohol education, we'll bring speakers onto our campus 2 or 3 times a year to speak to all of our 350 student athletes. We'll do online educational opportunities, particularly for our freshmen and new student athletes. Obviously, we'll bring in our coaches, will talk, and occasionally myself and our other athletic administrators will get in front of the student athletes in the fall of each year, remind them of the alcohol-related rules and regulations that we have. So there is kind of a year-long process that we talk to our student athletes, not just the 100 that we have a concern about, but typically all 350 get the same message 2 and 3 times and many times during the course of the year. Our penalties for off-field incidences relating to alcohol can vary depending on the team and the coach. We leave those up to the coaches, particularly in the more minor incidences like the minor consumptions. But on a regular basis, those can go to 1-game suspensions. They can be extra work in the weight room. They can be early morning study hall. When our athletes get into the higher level penalties, which I consider driving under the influence, any major penalty like a felony charge, those are immediately suspended from the team until further investigation, ultimately potentially loss of scholarship and being a member of the team. In order for us to reduce the problem on NDSU's campus, we already have many things in place. We're a dry campus in terms of our alcohol on campus. We do not sell alcohol at our athletic venues. We have a very, I would say, very structured tailgating presence in terms of there's a limited number of hours before the game. There's a limited number of hours after the games. We have a high presence of police and security in terms of checking IDs of the underage drinkers. So I think there's a lot of things we have in place to control it. I think my biggest concern is more education, more educational opportunities for the student athletes and all students on campus to understand the ramifications of overconsumption. And I think those are things that I think are going to be important to put in place to reduce our issues on campus. I think this is just a critical issue that we face on our campuses across the country. It's not just North Dakota State University. My particular issue is on the athletic side is the exposure that when an athlete gets in trouble that it brings negatively to an overall campus. And if we can reduce that, reduce those negative images that when athletes get in trouble bring to a campus, I think that's extremely important for us, for me as the director of athletics, to make sure that those problems, I don't know that we'll ever get rid of all of them, but if we can reduce them to a handful instead of 20 or 30 a year, that would be a huge goal from my perspective.